Hi, hi. Welcome to Coastside Poetry. Thanks to those of you who've zoomed in and those who are watching on YouTube. We meet virtually on the second Tuesday of every month to celebrate spoken poetry. I'm Diane Lee Mumi, and Steve Long and I are your hosts this evening. Our featured poet event is being recorded and streamed live onto YouTube as we speak, so anyone can look at it later. We'll be posting the link on our website, coastsidepoetry.org. This evening, we welcome Mirna Hirschl. For Mirna, poetry came late in life. She began by writing a memoir, but the activity soon evolved into writing poetry, a passion she has pursued for the last 13 years. She's published 2 collections, How Memories Insist and Slender Reeds. The Italian translation of the latter is now being published. Currently, she's engaged in translating a book on children's psychology from Serbian to English and hopes to resume writing her memoir. She enjoys reading, participating in local poetry circles, attending literature clubs, and studying foreign languages. On a beautiful day, she can be found walking in nature, contemplating its beauty, or visiting Filoli Gardens in search of wild cyclamen. Please welcome Mirna.
Thank you very much, Diane, for this lovely introduction. And thank you all for coming to hear me. I'm very excited. Thank you, Steve, for making this technically and otherwise possible, and all my friends, poets, and the family. There's a lot of material in front of me. I will not do it all, but I think that I just simply better start at the beginning. The very first poem that I will read to you is my first memory, a substantial memory, a memory that has persisted throughout my life. It's called 4 Hoofs of a Fawn. Sarajevo, summer 1942, the beginning of the World War II. Illusions wove a spooky veil under dinner conversation. They haunted me all the way home. Swinging featherlight in my parents' honey-warm hands, in 4 years of organdy blouses and a large bow on top of a curly bob, I heard sounds slither through darkness. Silvery fish somersaulted in my ears. Volumes of vowels slid down the tunnels, riotously fluting. Invisible owls hooting to the beat of premonition. I cried, gripped by fear. How I cried. They let me down gently. We cannot hear anything. Must be your imagination. Then they quickened their steps to make it home before curfew. In that unacknowledged night, I was not consoled. 4 hoofs of a fawn leapt over the fence of 4 years of innocence. This happened a lifetime ago. Sound ceased, owls died, but their instruments adhere obdurately to the chain of unexplained memories that sometimes without notice, take a swim in a warm bath of tears. This was only a premonition. However, the reality of World War II was there and the Holocaust was coming. So the next several poems will deal with that. First, Etush, my mother's younger sister. Were you a part of a naked, agonizing mass with flailing limbs, gasps, and screams? A scene from Inferno beyond what Dante could imagine. What were the sins of those condemned to this hell without flames? The gas hissed. Birth, sins, hiss. At the end, the shock of death without dignity. Piles of bodies caked with lime, topped with clumps of earth. Which clump are you now? When from the comfort of my plush seat in a movie theater, I saw heaps of bodies on the silver screen, I don't want to believe I saw you. Your name left no trace. The German archives opened only to German-born. It was the law that left no space for shadows. 3/4 of the century later, the archives opened up. Your name and death starkly on the page. A black crime on white. The bare facts without the grisly particulars. It was Auschwitz, where the trains came to a dead end. All dead. The rest of your story will be left forever to cold conjecture. Next one is Turuja, my mother's older sister. A resistance fighter, a Jew. A warrant was out for her, a double prize. A sweet lady with a soft white neck nobody could save. The Nazis shot you, hanged you like a puppet from the flagpole in front of the School of Pedagogy in Alexinets, where you had taught the youngsters how to become teachers with an emphasis on what is right and what is wrong. Your limp, dangling body, an example. Atzo, my cousin. At an angle to comfort, an angel leans to me protectively. He wore a mariner's suit, navy with white. Had a congenital hip defect. It happens, my omama said. God was even-handed when he endowed Atzo with great intelligence, but a faulty gait. A bright 10-year-old limping to his death. Oh, Atzo, my gangly cousin. When I saw you last, your long arms hugged my narrow shoulders. Then they took you away, made you stop growing in less than 6 months. Lena and Joseph Sandberg. My grandparents, Omama and Otata, rescued from a train bound for the camps of death by someone they never learned who. It could have been a German officer lodging in their tiny room, who in his great craving looked into the wrinkles on the face of my mama and thought he recognized his mother. Afterwards, she used to say, reaching for the corner of her apron, "I wish he saved my children instead, if it was he." All these relatives and more I keep alive in my memory. Sanctuary. I keep sorrow in a sanctuary reserved for beauty, all kinds of beauty. Some radiant smiles, gentle words, creamy camellias, infinite waves of sand dunes. In that haven, they hold hands together. There, my sorrow reveals a face of love. I will now jump literally over 80 years. Wanton words. After Robert Frost's Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall. Built to please the yelping dogs in love with boundaries, defenders of gaps, rivers without bridges, uncrossable, festering, noxious differences. Abroad in the least likely place, aboard a small cruise ship, I found the wall. A neighbor who leaned across the table bawled, "I miss my trusty pistol. It was too much trouble to check it in, you know. The boulders that they throw in our freedom way. I don't feel safe today." Why do you need to carry a pistol every day? I carry it because I like it. And I also like the wall. Oh, wanton words, wasps in my ears, hissing wayward wrong and wangling sin. Wall is a new four-letter word. The Wall of China, the Berlin Wall, our wall. How many walls of wicked waste must be? By many degrees, the wall of Robert Frost is a pale ghost of our wall, an affront to all. Something there is that must hate the wall. Well, the new generation is coming. Here is to hope. A visit to Palo High School, Palo Alto High School, that is. The door to the classroom was ajar. I pushed it open, entered a new world. A medley of students, the shades of pale moon, white porcelain, mahogany, ebony, a blessed spread of colors as created before ugly words like differentness, foreignness were ever invented. From the tilt of beloved head of my granddaughter, stray curls escaped, unruly, springy, ready to move with wind. Lanky limbs taut, heels impatient, set to lift off the flat ground, sprint, span the earth, make it a home for everyone. She was one among others, similar to them, as if related, one beautiful body of hope advancing, one eager wave of youth. Salty sweet drops pooled in my eyes. Driving home, I took my time. The steering wheel drove on its own, and I embraced the world in gratitude. So we need to lighten up a bit. Here is to dreams. The wayward logic of dreams. Between wakefulness and sleep, a line surreal, fine, reposes in a reverie. What a dream I had! Rules are off, boundaries adrift, rivers flowing up the hills, hills learning to swim. Humans grow angelic wings, birds with human feet dance a jig, and there is more. The moon waltzes out at 10 a.m., the sun at midnight at its best. Such a world knows only happiness. All is here for the taking. Slumber through the day, sow wheat under starlight. The crop ready, Francois Millet has painted a new version of haystacks. Nocturnal animals alter their appetites, knock on my door at noon, polite, and wait for the meal to be served on shells of gleaming abalone. What a lovely life design, fruit falling into our hands. But my heart isn't buying it. Where are the travails and sorrows? Where is the thrill of anticipation? Achievement and its reward gone to sleep. Listen to the sheep, baa, baa, in a continuous orgy of contentment. A lovely dream, fit for deep sleep and reverie. Don't you agree? And now we'll go all the way to Vienna for daydreaming. In the Leopold Museum in Vienna, the way people talk about Gustav Klimt, one would think he invented the kiss. He didn't. Millions of lovers never heard of him. Nor did he invent thin wooden square frames. He only used them in novel ways to contain the lushness of his trees. The trees escape and inhabit the spacious museum looking for an open window. Finding none, they lodge in your eyes. Nothing's left except you in a world of green. And those leaves, how they breathe, draw you in, lift you up until you levitate. The trees inhabiting the chambers of your mind and heart, joy blossoming in your hands. Now imagine the flights of fancy of their creator, Gustav Klimt, Do, I dare you. Okay. Here's the second ekphrastic poem. I think some of you have heard it before, but I can't resist reading it, so I will. Stay unresolved, and I will love you. De Chirico, Ernst, Dali, and Magritte. Thank you for not spelling things out, allowing me to fantasize, to brood. What does it all mean? And let my diverse feelings whirl unimpeded about your whimsical, uncharted wheels. Today I react to you thus and so. Next time, not at all, but always the freedom from having to understand and from boredom. My dear Magritte, I choose you today. I put on your black bowler hat and eat of your green apple, which enables everything. Flight from obligation, escape to imagination, thrill of the unresolved. Tomorrow I may let the Chirico birds fly and awaken those antique marble bodies strewn around like so many dead stones, which they are not really, but are alive with possibilities in these licentious landscapes that confuse the physical and the imaginary without censure, which is the delight of them. And if I ascend with you, my Dali, take me to the new time zones of watches which melt and drip, and I will send sun rays to reflect on them and change their silhouettes. I will stop a brook from flowing just like you. I will make the impossible real as long as you allow me to inhabit your canvases. But with you, Ernst, and your birds of flaming colors which speak the unspeakable of raw feelings, I'm shy. I need their boldness. I welcome them. Please come in. Meet your pupil. I want to be a field without a fence. Teach me, but beware. Do not tell me everything. Let me keep my inquisitive wings, and I will love you. So, in the previous poem, I was bending boundaries of art a bit. In this one, I'll be bending boundaries of speech and languages. Bending boundaries. I speak in different tongues. I also think in different tongues. But the choice isn't always mine, and that is the rub. Thoughts come and go, and if they appear to me in the wrong form, the insistent little devils, I have a heart-to-heart talk with them and dismiss them. When I stroll through the familiar speech forest, the word flowers glitter in shade of sentences, discreet, comely, scented with incense, sized for a small child's hand. The smell of tiny crimson cyclamen reminds me of my school backpack jammed with lost, uncultivated days. I pluck flowers from the forest floor and play with them like I would with toys, rules of the game in my bones. The grammar, the syntax, the murmur of the brook hop into a humble nosegay to be brought home and keep in a breakfast cup for as long as they will last. At the edge of the forest, a view, a blanket meadow, a rainbow of choices, a bountiful, confusing, seducing array of orange poppies, agapanthus, orchids, bent on forming my thoughts to conform to their grammar, their syntax. I bind them into a lavish bouquet fit for a porcelain vase. The forest fringe phrase. The words wander more and more often from one world to another, bending boundaries. In the end, they will riot together until I lose myself in them and find myself. I don't know yet what will be the form of the last word. Okay. And how am I doing, Diane? I can read one more. You're muted.
My goodness. Yes. Yes, we would love to hear another one. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I will read this one. Coaxing words. To a poet, words are everything. I fear I may be losing them. They say the verse to go are the rarely used ones, the picturesque, the exceptional, serendipity, cirrocumulus, harlequin, a confessional. How I pamper them, stick them into daily conversation to kindly remind them that they are valued, hoping they'll fulfill noblesse oblige and stay with me. I begin to sound strange, even to myself, stuck up, preposterous, bizarre. Who talks like that? Speaking to myself sotto voce. You have always been bizarre. Everyone is, until they're found out. There is also this stubbornness that shadows me, a history of aggrandizing. When I tended tomatoes in my garden, my children tell me I call them glorious. The chrysanthemums, whose name alone should be grand enough, I declared effusive, and so on. Exaggeration is my thing. It lends me wings, although at this humble moment, a single word comes to mind: longing. I long for the lanterns in the sky that insist on twinkling away, for the sun sinking into forgetfulness, for the water dwindling in my well. There is comfort in knowing that the stars grace the sky even when it's clouded up. An eclipsed sun still brilliant when seen from someplace else. And there is always more than one brook to quench the thirst. I run to fetch the binoculars, a celestial globe, a dictionary to replenish my well for the time being. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mirna. Oh, what a moving, beautiful set. Thank you so much. I would like to invite folks to unmute and make some noise. And
Myrna,
Thank
that
you,
was
Mirna.
fabulous.
Yay.
That was fabulous,
Right.
Mirna.
Very much.
So
Yeah.
beautifully read.
Thank you so much.
Utterly blown away.
I can't get my picture to come up.
Who uses nosegay as an image?
Yeah, that's true. Who does?
From here, but
Yes, your words are most important right now. We need them.
yeah.
Thank you.
You have a marvelous vocabulary, and what amazes me, you're speaking in a language that was not your original language.
Mhm.
Have a wonderful facility for learning languages. Many people can't speak that English is their native language, couldn't express themselves nearly as well as you do. And I struggle with two foreign languages, so I can appreciate what you've done to master foreign languages.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
What a gorgeous, gorgeous set, Mirna. And I was thinking that coming from Sarajevo, this part of the world where almost everyone speaks multiple languages from birth, was that your experience, that you learned very many languages at the same time?
Yeah, well, remember those flowers that are getting mixed up?
Mhm. So which languages were they the earliest ones for you?
Of course, it's my native language, which is Serbo-Croatian. Nowadays, two languages. I guess I gained a few because they declared in that part of the world that they now all of a sudden have more languages, which are all the same, really. But, you know, makes me a instant polyglot, right? I speak some Italian. I used to speak Russian 100 years ago. A little bit of French, and when I need a word just in English, it comes in some other shape, just like in that poem.
That's
Completely
wonderful.
disobedient stuff.
Well, it's so good for our brains to be multilingual. And I wonder, have you ever tried using multiple languages in one poem?
No. This is a problem with mixing languages. I can't even translate my own poems into Croatian. It depends on which form. Here's a form again. It depends on which form they arrived. If, let's say, I'm speaking about a poem that I was inspired for it by the event that happened to me many years ago when I predominantly spoke Croatian. That's difficult because it insists on being born in Croatian and just won't, because the language has really walked away from me. It's, of course, we speak it around the house and, you know, when we want to be very funny or something like that. But it has changed to the extent that I don't feel that I'm really equipped with enough with contemporary grammar and so on. And if it happened if I was inspired by some event, let's say in Italy, I feel such an urge to write in Italian, and I did that in one song. It was courageous enough. I'll never do it again. So no, you can't. I can. Maybe some people can. I cannot mix it. It would be too much. You know, it breaks the concentration. That's the problem.
It can be hard on the listeners if we don't know all the languages, then we get stuck on line 3 and you're off on line 8 and we missed everything in between.
I know all about missing a line. Yeah, so it depends. The problem is this, that when a memory of something occurs to me, let's say in Croatian, then all of a sudden the Croatian words pop up and they don't translate directly. None of the languages that translate directly from one to another. And I may be thinking of something that simply doesn't exist in English, not with that shading that I want to give it. And in such cases, I have to actually leave that poem alone and come back to it much, much later. Hopefully with, not such a strong native recollection, because that just ruins it. I don't know if I made that clear, Anyway, that's the thing with languages. They simply, right now, one of my books, as you heard from Diane, is being published in Italian. And I had somebody who translated it for me, but we cooperated a great deal. And I've never imagined that there is so much difficulty in translation. I would just as soon write 4 new poems than translate one half of one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you always sacrifice something. It will be either partially the meaning, or even worse, all those emotional shadings. One word in English has more than one meaning. It also recollects for the listener, it evokes all kinds of other things that go with that word, but not always. Sometimes they're appropriate, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Or the music, the rhythm will be sacrificed. Something is gotta go when you translate. And
Yep.
so anyway, thank you for the question.
Mirna, I feel like I know your relatives to whom you wrote and dedicated these short poems in the beginning. It was just very heartwarming. Your aunt, your cousin. So that was very sweet. I liked it. Thank you.
Thank you. I started writing by trying to do a memoir, and I couldn't stick to the facts. Just couldn't. Imagination took over right away. And so I went for poetry. That's when I started writing poetry. And what I basically wanted to do is actually sort of a memorial, poetic memorial to my family. And I couldn't do that. It needed digesting. And the problem was that there was no data whatsoever. I was too young. I don't remember them. I remember the feeling of them. And very often I don't know what's a photograph and what is my recollection anymore. Yeah, I was just 2 and 3. It's not possible to remember. Until the archives opened up, which happened several years ago. The archives of concentration camps. And finally, at least I was able to learn where they were sent and where they died. I had nothing to go by, not a thing. So now I felt that since I was able to do that, the very least I can do is write the poems in as much detail as possible. Sometimes it's even better without detail because you concentrate more on emotions than you do on some details that are not going to do that much for a poem. And so I hope that answers your question.
Well, thank you so much again, Mirna. That's just what a lovely set of poems and talk and hearing about the languages and translating is just really amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll stop recording in a moment. Those of you in the Zoom room, please stay online if you'd like to take part in the open mic. Thanks to all our YouTube listeners. Please tune in for our next regular Coastside Poetry event on Tuesday, April 8th, when we will welcome all of us for another all open mic. So thanks again for joining us and for helping to keep the lamps of poetry burning.